Welcome to the Humanity Leadership Podcast, where we tackle your toughest leadership challenges and share practical tools to help you lead with impact. Well, welcome to this episode. My name's David Wheatley. I'm your usual host, but this is another of our First Friday sessions from our first Friday of April. And this is presented by my business partner, John Barrett. It's kind of good timing because we just celebrated our 25th anniversary in business in March. And so we get to hear from him. And he's going to be talking more about the backpack idea. And this idea that everything we carry around with us in our virtual backpack. And sometimes we can feel a little weighed down by that. And sometimes it's good to share the load and redistribute or resort. Sometimes we might need a bigger backpack, or sometimes we might need to just get fitter and work out how we're going to climb the hill. What John's going to be talking about is how AI might be able to help. Now, he's going to start us off by reassuring us that he's not an expert in AI, but he's certainly one of a leading thinker from our perspective, and he's been guiding the organization in the use of AI as we've started our journey, and it's probably more in tune than most people that you know. So he's going to have that conversation. He's also going to be referring to a couple of slides. And if you want to follow up on those slides, then a couple of them, you just have to open ChatGPT and ask the same question, and you'll see the same answers or very similar answers. But there's some resources that he describes. If you reach out to humanity.com, we'll certainly share those with you. Or you can watch this on the YouTube site, Humanity's YouTube site, where you can see the visual version of this directly plucked from our first Friday session. The audio version has no audio description of the pieces where he's describing completely, but you'll be able to work out what he's talking about. I'm going to start you off by linking you straight to him, where he's going to be telling you how he's not really that much of an expert, but what his credentials are for having this conversation. Take it away, John.
First of all, for those of you who've been to the previous sessions, we've been talking about this idea of managing your workload. And whether it was the idea of backpack or, a bucket, we've been using this idea of a physical metaphor to get a key point across, which is, reality is brutal, right? Our capacity is fixed, and whatever doesn't fit in, it doesn't fit in terms of workload. Now, what we find is that's quite often hidden to people. We experience the symptoms downstream, but at any given time when we say yes to something, we don't have a physical signal, if you like, or a strong signal that says, hey, this is too much. So the thing about thinking of it in a physical way, whether it's a backpack, your suitcase when you're going to go on a business trip, or a bucket, is that you soon realize that everything that you add, something comes out, right? And if you take something out, then you have the potential for something in. So I just wanted to sort of capture that idea as a starting point. Now, for those of you who were here last month, Lance talked about this idea of get a larger bucket. And that's what we want to explore today in terms of AI as a partner. So partnering with AI. So in a sense, expanding your bucket by having a partner with AI. And just to sort of build that idea in, I just wanted to share with you, there we go, a quick video. It's 1 minute long. Just a quick background. Mount Tai, which is where this footage comes from, is a famous place to visit. It's a beautiful place where people pilgrimage. And the way you generally get up to the top is a beautiful pathway that is 7,200 steps tall and takes anywhere between 3 and 6 hours to get to the top. Now, you can cheat. You can go around the back and get a bus and then get a cable car. But for most people, the experience is to go up. And there's people who live all up and down this pathway. And so, a lot of people the way that things get up and down in terms of goods and services, and as you can see, trash, is it has to get literally carried. So here we have an idea of how we can expand our capacity. Okay, so, carrying a load up a steep mountain is not something that we're going to be doing anytime soon. But the idea being is that, if we want to expand our capacity, one way of doing it is to get some help. And in fact, a robot is where a physical device and AI actually come together. And in fact, it's the AI that makes the magic in this case. But a couple things, 3 ideas for the balance of our session that I have here. One, how can we engage AI to do more, right? Carry more weight, carry more load, 40 Ks, 80 Ks, 120 Ks. How can we engage AI to be more? Meaning, if I'm not loaded down, sweating, carrying a huge weight, maybe I can have a different experience of the mountain, right? And if I'm not loaded down and I have the bandwidth, what things can I see? What things can I do? What things can I be? And then lastly, the last thing I want to talk about quickly is how do we grow wiser? Because the idea of partnering is very much about a learning experience of both what AI is capable of and it's what it can offer in doing more for us, but then what is the impact on us of doing less? So let's jump in. First of all, as you're probably aware, this AI thing is not going away. It's like an avalanche. If anything, it's growing in size and volume, and every day I look, something new is coming along. The other thing, and research shows here, and this is just one of many, but this is from McKinsey, is that up to 30% estimated of current work hours may be potentially replaced across the board through this AI piece. And as you can see from this graph, it's not physical work per se. That's pretty much stable. It's data management work, so collecting, processing data, but then stuff that we would typically say, well, isn't that what people do? Interacting with stakeholders, managing, developing people, applying expertise. And you can sort of see the estimates are not just 10%, it's 200%, it's 300%. I would anticipate actually this is an underestimate. So, and one last piece before we move on. This is an early piece of study. Harvard study, people looked at Procter & Gamble, 700 professionals, and they looked at scenarios where you had teams, so people and people working together, but then teams with AI. And what they found is that teams with AI were the most productive combinations thereof. Not only getting more done, but also producing better solutions. And as it identifies here, it's not just a quantity of work, it's also a quality of work. And what I find is fascinating is that the teams that were engaged with AI actually had a different experience. Not that they were less satisfied, in fact, that they were more satisfied and had more positive emotions overall. So let's explore this idea of do more. I actually used AI to help to generate this. And so here's an example of how we can do more with less. If I initially was going to put this list together with my own notes, and then I thought, well, let's see what AI can do. So you can see my prompt at the top. Generate a list of the top 10 easy and best uses of AI to help a professional and everyday productivity, right? So within about 15 seconds, I had this list. I was then able to spend a couple of minutes, right, looking through it. And what I was able to do very quickly was to say, you know what? I can relate to, and this matches my personal experience and others' experience, step by step. So I was able to validate it quickly. So I'm going to just invite you to cast your eyes down here just to spark your own thoughts about possible uses. And also, you probably see some things that you're already doing. Okay. Then for fun, I decided, well, let's just see if what happens when I just ask for another 10. And so again, about 15 seconds later, I had another list. And again, I spent another couple of minutes looking through my notes, looking through my own experience, and realizing that this really was an excellent summary in order to build on. And again, I share it with you, encourage you to have a look down through and see where you might potentially have some opportunity. So I wanted to give an example very quickly of how we're looking at exploring something. We do 360s for leaders, and it is a fairly complex and sizable piece of information. People get feedback from up, 10 to 20 people on 75 questions and then are invited to provide written comment, multiple times throughout. This generates a report of about 40 pages of data, as well as up to 20 pages of written comment. So it's sizable. Typically, it would take one of us at least 2 hours to look through it and to digest it and to provide a key point summary and insights to somebody. And we also have people do it themselves. And typically that takes them about 4 hours. So with a little bit of experimentation, what we found is we could literally take this PDF and without any education, any training or anything like that, literally put the PDF directly into, the AI platform, and it would provide, a fairly detailed and insightful analysis. Now, we just don't use it like that. What we do is we then take that, and we're currently in the process of comparing it with the human form analysis, of which we've got now hundreds, and the AI, and seeing what we can learn about from that in terms of partnering. Okay. So this opportunity for doing more. Now, being more is not just, hey, I used to do this and then now I don't. Right? The thing is that AI can do things that you can do. But for those of you who've played with it, I think you sort of see there's a possibility that AI can do things that you can't do. And in doing things that you can do, it releases you to do things that you don't have time for. So between doing things that you don't have time for that have more value, plus tapping into the unique qualities of what AI can bring, and then adding to that your high-end expertise, then we can, in my mind, we can be more. So I just want to share with you just some of the things just to sort of stretch your mind that AI can currently do. And again, I'm not going to go through all of them, but I just wanted to put this top 10 in front of you. Right. And as you're reading that, a couple of other additional ones. For example, AI currently tests out in the top 10% on standardized law exams. Right? AI is currently tests out as being outstanding and actually best at doing some high-level medical analysis. So my point is that the limit, in my experience, of how much we can use AI is generally when we look in the mirror. The limit is our imagination of what is possible. So lastly, grow wiser. And there's a couple of things that we need to be aware of. First of all, AI, even as it gets smarter and smarter, so to speak, is it only emulates intelligence, insight, and understanding. It doesn't actually have inherently those capabilities. And as you're probably aware, it does have biases. It also is subject to illusions, etc. Now, what I would note is as are we. So it's not like, hey, AI is flawed, you can't trust it. I mean, I think if we look at it, what we do too, we also have inherent limitations. The second thing I want to highlight is that this idea of unearned knowledge is both seductive and dangerous, right? There is something to be said for doing the sweat equity yourself. I give you an example of the 360. We insist that people do their own analysis of their 360, and it takes, like I said, up to 4 hours. And the reason is that that experience is transformative. If we just gave people, hey, here's the top, key point, analysis, it would not have the same impact. And there's, lots of examples of that is that you can see a summary and think, oh, yeah, I understand that. But if you haven't earned it in some way, either the sweat equity of doing the base research or the doing it yourself, etc., then, your understanding is, paper thin to some degree, and you have to be, aware of that. Third point is that there is a confidentiality piece, and so we have done some research on that before we started, having AI look at 360s, and there's things that you need to do to sort of switch on confidentiality, especially if you're using sensitive inputs. And then lastly, I just want to highlight this idea is the biggest impact that I anticipate is the impact on you. And we already see this. How many of you use Google Maps a lot? How many of you discovered that in using Google Maps or not, you've sort of forgotten how to get to places? Right? So you either use it or you lose it, whether it's Google Maps or arithmetic or research abilities or whatever, etc. And so the biggest impact can certainly amplify your output. It can also increase your skill of, symbiotic partnering, with this platform or platforms. It also can allow you to further develop your top end skills because you're able to reinvest, if you like, bottom end work into top end work, right? And I guess this is the big thing that really has struck me over and over, and I've been thinking about a lot is be careful what you outsource to AI. Sometimes there's something to be said for carrying a heavy backpack up 7,200 steps, right? And I don't know if anybody recognizes this picture on the screen. It's from Wall-E. Yeah. I mean, I think it's a cautionary tale, right? And we can think of, in what ways have we already atrophied in some ways. And so I guess it's just being thoughtful and wise in itself about, what we hang on to as human beings as the AI continues to explode in terms of its capability. And then my last thoughts are, and again, I will work out a way if you would like to reference this, because I know there's a lot of stuff here, is what I found is what's really helpful to me is I think of AI as a super smart, literal, and naive intern who can't read my mind, but seems to have unlimited time and unlimited access to information, and who will provide me exactly what I ask for, whether I realize it or not, with a high probability. So I offer that to you. I think the next thing I would offer is ask AI for exactly what you want. Don't worry about how it gets there. Just ask for the result in the way that you want it, for the use that you want it in. That's very helpful. And then lastly, think of it, I would offer it as a three-step process. Ask for the best you can, review it, refine your ask, or even ask, if you ask it to review some of your work, ask it for, feedback, etc. Anyway, and think of it as not a one step, but a three step. So instead of taking you 30 seconds, it might take you 3 minutes, potentially. These are a couple of resources that I go to. I subscribe to this Rundown University. It sends me something every day. It's very practical. It looks at the big picture and the small picture and all the things that are happening and all the platforms that are out there, etc. If you want to go a deeper dive, they have this university that you can click on and do a free trial of, which as soon as I get half a chance, I'll be certainly signing up for. And then lastly, there's this prompt engineer GPT idea, which is you don't even have to be good at writing prompts anymore. AI will help you write better prompts to get you better impacts.
That was the Humanity Leadership Podcast. Make sure you like and subscribe and visit humanity.com for many more resources.